Hey guys! So Halloween is coming soon and I really wanted to share a video with you guys. A bit different from what I normally post. Today I decided to share with you an easy how-to on the Halloween costume that I am using this year. So Halloween is in just over a week, and this past weekend I went to a Halloween party. I needed a costume that I could make quick and efficiently, and so I decided to go as a sim. I'd seen people go as sims before, but I wanted to take it to the next level and I wanted to do something that I'd never seen before. So I went as a censored or a naked sim. I really like to be funny with my Halloween costumes and I was hoping that this would fit the bill. I was very excited to finish up my costume and see what it turned into. Here I have pictured what I looked like this weekend in my costume. This video will be all about how to make that costume. It was really easy. It did take a little bit of time because it involved painting 2 boards, but other than that, it was pretty simple and it was pretty cost effective. It cost me about $15 and most of that came from buying paint and a headband. The headband was $2 and I believe I spent about $12 on the paint. If you already have acrylic paint at home, this will be a lot easier and more efficient for you to make. Something I also needed was a color printer to print off a template for the plumb bob. Luckily, I have a color printer and basically all we have right now is green ink, so it worked out well in my favor. There are tons of tutorials on YouTube on how to make plumb bobs if you don't have a color printer. I also recommend using Cardstock for printing off the plumb bob template, but using paper will work just fine. It just won't be as durable as if you were to use cardstock. Anyway, I hope you guys like my tutorial and I can't wait to see all of you guys twinning with me. If you decide to use this costume, leave your Instagrams or wherever you posted the picture down below and I would love to check them out. And check out my Instagram to see my version of the costume. My handle is @Erica_silk. And if you want to see more content like this or some Disney content, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below.
The first thing I need is my supplies. I have paint, paintbrushes, painter's tape, pencil, ruler, and 2 poster boards. I got my paint in flesh tones, yellow, pink, brown, and white. After gathering my supplies, I measured my poster board. My poster board was 22 inches by 27.5 inches. I decided to divide this by 2.75 to create 80 squares, 8 by 10, of 2.75 inches squared for my pixels. Once I measured out those squares, I marked them up on both ends and then I created lines to join them. After I did this with the bottom, I did it all the way up the sides as well. The next step is optional. I did it for one board and not for the other. What I did was I took the painter's tape and I marked the outlines of every other column. I did this to create ease when painting, however I did run into some issues with it sticking. After I had lined it all up, it looked something like this. Finally, it's time to start painting. I took the flesh tone first before mixing any colors and filled in a few squares. After that, I started mixing colors to create different flesh tones. I mixed different mixtures of the pink, yellow, brown, white, and flesh tones to create what I decided looked best. I didn't like all the mixtures I created, but I did like a lot of them. I just kind of played around until I got colors that I liked. And then I started filling up the 4 columns that I had taped out. The final result ended up looking something like this once I had painted the 4 columns. Next, it was time to take the tape off. This is when I ran into some issues with it pulling on the paper and I decided to no longer use it. Without using it, you have to be very careful about staying in the lines, so the board that I didn't use the tape for ended up being the board that I wore on my back. This is what the board looked like after I pulled all the tape off. Now I started filling in the extra squares without using tape and just being careful about the lines. I did this until all 80 squares on my board were filled, and then I did the other board, which I didn't film. They looked like this when I was done. I left my boards to dry overnight, and then the next day, I revisited them and started to cut out squares along the edges to create a more pixeled look. Finally, my board looked like this. Now it's time to make the plumb bob. For this, I printed off a template. I simply found it by Googling Sims plumb bob template. I have a headband, a hot glue gun, scissors, and a stick to put in the middle of the plumb bob. The first step is to cut out the template. I printed and cut mine on cardstock. However, you don't have to do this, it just won't be as sturdy otherwise. It's very important to stay along the lines in order to make it easier to fold and create the plumb bob. Once both are cut out, it's time to start folding. Simply fold along the lines, trying to be as accurate as possible in order to get the plumb bob shape. Next, I'm going to glue along the flap on the side and fold over the paper so that is attached in somewhat of a cone shape. Then I fold out all the flaps on the bottom so that they're not folded inwards, and I put glue on them. Once the glue is on them, I fold over the base to create half of the plumb bob. I repeat all of this and create the other half. Once I have the other half, I will put hot glue on the base of one of them, line them up, and stick them together. It's as easy as that to make the full plumb bob shape. What I didn't show was that I cut a small hole in the bottom of one side of the plumb bob and I stuck the stick in. I did this with hot glue on the end to keep it in, and it created a base within the plumb bob. I used the small amount of the stick that was still sticking out to stick to the headband. This next process is tedious, requires a lot of holding while it dries, and a lot of hot glue. Basically, I just pumped a lot of glue onto the headband and held the plumb bob in place while it dried. I had to reapply glue a few times just to get enough for it to stick in an upright position. And this also required a lot of patience while I waited for it to dry. After a few minutes though, it was complete and the plumb bob was stuck on the headband. I didn't get much footage of the last step, but this is to make the straps to hold it on. You can use string if you want and just punch holes, but I hot glued strips of fabric to the paper. I just cut out 2 long strips and then I folded each in half to create clean edges. Here I'm just quickly showing where I wanted to attach the straps on the board that was going to be hanging on my front side.
So I didn't get to film too much about the straps that I put onto my costume because actually by the time I was making that, it was about time to leave for the party. So I just thought I would show it to you here. So here's my costume. I don't have the plumb bob with me right now though. So it's kind of weird. This is the back side and it's just flipped up. So the straps are attached kind of near the center, and the straps themselves I cut out of fabric and then folded over and glued together just to create a bit of a more reinforced but slim strap. And then down here I attached them in between the second and third pixels, I guess you could say. And then here I believe they're between the third and the fourth on each side. And then the straps aren't too long. It's just the right length to cover my body when I'm wearing the costume. So this is a super great costume and I got a ton of great feedback on it. Like I said, if you use this costume, let me know where I can find a picture of you wearing it and I would love to check that out. I hope to see you twinning me this Halloween. And thank you so much for watching my tutorial. I hope you like it. Let me know how it goes. This was my first time making a costume when I filmed the tutorial and it went pretty well for me. So that is a sure sign that it is a pretty easy costume to make because I have a tough go with crafts. But like I said, thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you in my next video. Bye!